God's wrath and God's curse fi dunya wal akhirah, and it would be right for God to smash him with 1,000 stones of hell. And if he tries to separate two people who are happily married but fails, then again he will be in the displeasure of God, and God's curse will be on him. And Allah will refuse to allow him to look at him, or that Allah will refuse to look at him. Lots of sawab. The Imam said, Imam Sadiq, man zawwaja a'zaban, whoever helps a single person get married, kana mimman yanzuru Allahu azza wa jalla ilayhi yawm al-qiyamah. Allah will look at him favorably. Allah will look at him favorably. The Imam Sadiq also said, reported from Amir al-Mu'mineen, أفضل الشفاعات أفضل الشفاعات أن تشفع بين اثنين في نكاح حتى يجمع الله بينهما. The best intercession, तो सुलह कराएंगे, best intercession आए कि आए वह हमारे जीवित में सुलह करायो, मालूम है भाई मकारों का जो ज्ञान थे, ये अफदल الشفاعات है. अने Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam chonta ke tre maru erain thalathatun yastadilluna bi dhilli arshi Allah yawm al-qiyamah yawma la dhilla illa dhilluh. क़यामत जदीन जे कोई शेड न हूंदो, tre माण्हू ख़ुदा जे शेड में हूंदा. हिकिड़ो इनमें ई आहे कि जे कोशिश करे कि ॿ माण्हू में ॿाहिरी इन खे भेरो करे निकाह में कर. ॿियो कि जे कोई मोमिन जी ख़िदमत करे, ॿ मोमिन खे भेरो करे, सदरो करे अने ख़िदमत करे मोमिन जी, अने कोई अहिड़ी सिर वे इनके ई हिफ़ाज़त में रखे. So many blessings of getting people married, helping them get married, be it financially, be it morally, be it helping find a spouse. What about your own kith and kin? What about your own kith and kin? तव्हांखे ख़ुशी थी नहीं खपे कि पाण पंहिंजे भाउ खे, पंहिंजी भेण खे, पंहिंजे छोकिरे खे, पंहिंजी छोकिरी खे, पंहिंजे भतीजे खे पिणण, प्रोवाइडेड के ओलका स्वालिहीन हुन, એટલે કે પ્રોવાઇડેડ કે ઓલકા રેડી ફોર મેરેજ हुन, रिस्पॉन्सिबल हुन, अकल वारा हुन, नेक हुन. तव्हांखे ख़ुशी थी नहीं खपे. बहुत घणो फ़ाइदो आहे, बहुत घणो सवाब आहे. इन चवणो कि तूं कमाए ने पिंड भेण. ई आंजी अकल चए थी. खुदा तो चए तो वअनकिहू, पिणायो. भगो अॻियां भगो माण्हुनि खे, जेके पिणणो आहिनि, जेके न पिणणो आहिनि धक्का मारचा. सो वअनकिहू अल-अयामा मिनकुम वास-सालिहीन मिन इबादिकुम व इमाइकुम. પછી આયત અલ્યા વધે थी, इन यकूनु फुकरा युगनिहिमुल्लाहु मिन फضله. अगर वो मारू, if that person whom you are trying to help get married is poor, Allah will enrich him from his grace. What kind of poverty is meant here? Not absolute poverty, relative poverty. This is somebody who can afford the mahar and who can afford the maintenance of a wife at a basic level. So the person is good, the person is hardworking, the person is responsible, the person is serious, the person is suitable for marriage, etc., etc. That person is compatible with the person he or she wants to get married to. The only obstacle is that they are relatively poor. Because if they're absolutely poor, something else is for them. We shall come to that. If they are relatively poor, then that should not be a hindrance. That should not be the only hindrance to getting them married. Why? Because Allah will enrich them. Allah will enrich them. So for example, why do I say that it's relative poverty and not absolute poverty as we might have thought? For example, we have this famous report of the Messenger of God. I'm reciting the first half of it, the second half will come a little bit later. The Messenger said, Ya ma'ashara al-shabab, O community of young men, man istata'a. Word, hapte the word ke dhyan rakhja. Man istata'a minkumul ba'ata. Whoever is able to maintain a wife, فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ فَإِنَّهُ أَغَضُّ لِلْبَصَرِ وَأَحْسَنُ لِلْفَرْجِ. जिनमें इस्तिताअत आए, એટલે પૈસે વાળો આય ના, પૈસે વાળો હોય તો બહુ સારું, પણ ન વે ॿियो મળે બરાબર વે તો ભલે भेण. मन इस्तताअ मिनकुमुल बाअता फल्यतज़व्वज. So he's a person, say, he's an early career professional or an early career entrepreneur. So he's growing. Well, then in that case, if everything else is okay, go ahead. Relative poverty. And so we have many reports from the Imams as well, but I'll just quote one. And that is that Hisham ibn Salim al-Jalaliqi, one of the companions of the sixth Imam, said, a man came to the Messenger of God and he فَشَكَى إِلَيْهِ الْحَاجَةِ. He complained to him about needs, financial needs. So the Messenger said, تَزَوَّجْ فَتَزَوَّجَ فَوَسَّعَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. Told him, get married. And so he got married. What is meant over here is relative poverty, and that is why if you come across a woman, for example, who demands a very high mahar, that is a problem, because that makes a person from relative poverty into it pushes him into complete poverty. And such a lady is criticized. مِنْ شُؤْمِ الْمَرْأَةِ غِلَاءُ مَهْرِهَا. Also a woman who is high maintenance. અને અહીં કે ગુરતા હો આ કે વાંધો ન હોય આ કે પૈસો હોય આ કે હાઈ મેન્ટેનન્સ જરા તો બિસ્મિલ્લાહ બહુ સારું હોય પણ અગર કોઈ એવો મારું હોય યકૂન ફુકરા તો પછી તો બહેતર આય કે ઈ હાઈ મેન્ટેનન્સ રસૂલ ખુદા ચુંતાનો તો ચા મિન શુમિહા يعني من شؤم المرأة امرأة شدة مؤونتها इन जो हिसाब किताब रखूं બહુ ઓંજો evil આય એરી ભાઈ. એટલે evil eye in the sense કે પછી જાય છે હું પહેરી ન શકે તો આખી સોસાયટી જાય છે પ્રોબ્લેમેટિક થઈ નહીં ને મને પૈસે વાળા મારું બોતલ બી આવીને મળે કે પૈસે વાળા જેમને silver spoon in their mouths તો ન મળી શકે મળે કે તો ઇન યકૂનુ ફુકરા યુગનિહિમ અલ્લાહુ મિન ફضله. અહીં આપણો નેચરલ એક્સપ્લેનેશન आहे જે ફુકાહા ચૂંટા ચલ આમાં કે જોશ ને કે बड़े कुरान पे लिखे हुए वो स्वालिहीन जो लफ्ज़ स्वालिहीन है खाली है ने जे गुलाम वाले कनीज के बारे में पर ना मरे माटे थे तो बोले अगर रिस्पांसिबल मार हुआ if the person is responsible, the person is hard working, the person is ambitious, virtuous, the ulama are saying he is going to move his hand and his feet, he's going to move हाथ पग हलाएंगे ना जब हाथ पग हलाएंगे तो खुदा पछी दरवाजा खोलेंगे. ही पण मतलब आहे आके वो मतलब खंड होता है ठीक है कि बाप कहीं आंसू तो मैजिकली जाए से पैसो अची तो ये पॉसिबल है. हालांकि किताबे में इनजा डिटेल्स हैं अने जे आई से इन जो प्रो नेचुरल एक्सप्लेनेशन ई आहे के जाए से रिस्पांसिबल मार हुए वर्चुअस मार हुए अकल वालो मार हुए तो ज पेणाई जा नका तो न पेणाई जा बराबर है कि ना. तो ई हाथ पग मार दो छोकरी हाथ पग मार दी खुदा बरकत दींदो इंशाअल्लाह. ना ये प्रॉब्लम है कच्ची में इंग्लिश में कच्ची में शिफ्ट करी ना तो उनके माफ करे हम बोले तो हमारे समझौता. So in yakunu fuqara yughnihim Allah min fadli, Allah will enrich him from his grace. Why will he do that? How will he do that? Wallahu wasi'un alim. Allah is of extensive means and Allah is all-knowing. Okay, this is the only, and this also applies to a woman. Now, I'm coming to the end of the talk, bear with me. The Imam in his khutbah of nikah recited just verse 32. The same khutbah is recited in our nikahs, as it shall be recited in the next couple of days and then perhaps later on as well. And in that also we only recite verse 32. I, however, have taken the initiative to recite the next verse. Why? You'll come to understand that right now. And perhaps it would be nice, perhaps, to recite the beginning part of verse 33 along with verse 32, because it completes the picture. So what does verse 32 say? Get single people married. If they are poor, relatively poor, God shall enrich them, because God is of extensive means and He is all-knowing. Now, وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا. As for those who are unable to get married, then they should be chaste and patient. حَتَّى يُغْنِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Till Allah enriches them from His grace. Look, this is the issue with Islamic studies. It's very literary. إن يكونوا فقراء يغنيهم الله من فضله وليستعفف الذين لا يجدون نكاحا حتى يغنيهم الله من فضله. Do you see this contextual connection? يغنيهم الله من فضله. So therefore this means, as for the person who is absolutely poor rather than relatively poor, absolutely poor, who cannot afford nafaqah, who cannot afford mahr, then let him be chaste till Allah enriches him. This can also refer to a person who is relatively poor, but society is not taking him seriously, so he remains single. And how does he do isti'faf? How does he remain chaste? Well, remember that report I recited of the Messenger of God? Whoever is able to maintain a wife should get married, because that is good for the eyes, it is helpful for the eyes, it is helpful for the private part. The very same verse, then, the very same report then says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَعَلَيْهِ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّ لَهُ وِجَاءٌ. For as the person who is unable to get married, then let him fast, because that has a castrating type effect. It reduces one's need for intimacy. So that report of the Messenger of God closely reflects and resembles verse 32 and the beginning part of verse 33. So what does the beginning part of verse 33 say? وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا. जे माण्हू खे पहिरियों न आहे उनखे मदद कयो कि पहिरें, अगर सन्नी हालत आहे, ॿियो मरे बराबर आहे, सन्नी हालत आहे तो मदद कयो, पहिरायो, अने खाली ही फ़क़र, ॿिया इश्यूज़ हुन त दूर कयो फ़क़र साथे, पर अगर खाली फ़क़र आहे, पर रिस्पॉन्सिबल माण्हू आहे, पोटेंशियल ॾिसाजे तो इनमें, त बिस्मिल्लाह कयो, अर्ली करियर प्रोफेशनल लाइफ फॉर एग्जांपल. अने अगर जराई ताक़त न वे, कुल खे संजोग साथ था ॾियनि, तो हेड़ो माण्हू पूरो करे, वलियस्ताफ़िफ़िल लदीना ला यजिदूना निकाहन हत्ता युगनियहुमुल्लाहु मिन फ़ज़ली. ॾिठा वर्स 33 जो ही पार्ट दिया है, वर्स 32 के कंप्लीट करे तो के ना कंप्लीट करे तो हाणे छेला चीजूं आहिनि. It is not only poverty that can stop a person from getting married. Not only poverty, other things as well. For example, it is said, did you know, brothers and sisters in faith, that the 7th Imam Musa ibn Ja'far had 30 plus children. 30 plus children. Amirul Mu'minin Ali, 30 plus children. They were the ones who acted on تَنَاكَحُوا وَتَنَاسَلُوا تَكْسُرُوا فَإِنِّي أُبَاهِي بِكُمُ الْأُمَمَ يَوْمَ. ही पाण निकाह में त पढ़ूं था, पर अमल केरु करे थो? तनाकहू पहिरियों, तनासलू नस्ल वधायो, तक्सिरू वो वधारे नस्ल वधायो. ए बाबा, तनाकहू वतनासलू तक्सुरू. मौलाना पढ़ी विया बिन फातिमा जी बिलाद में कि बच्चा वधारे कयो. बराबर रसूल खुदा चो. पर अमीरुल मोमिनीन ॿियो बि पंछियो हुयो नहजुल बलागा में, इंशाअल्लाह मौलाना जी से क्लैरिफाई कईंदा. पर निकाह में पढ़ाजे तो, पर अरबी में if everything is recited in Arabic and we don't know what is being recited, and we don't know the people being that when somebody was getting married, they were being told tanakahu wa tanasilu taksiru, and he has no intention of having more than one child. He has no intention of it all. बस हकड़ो. यहाँ जो रसूल नहीं चेतो, એટલે ही મને रिवायत है कि कॉन्टेक्स्ट पे समझने की जरूरत है. अमीरुल मोमिनीन, over 30 children. मूसा इब्न जाफर काज़िम पंहिंजे मगज में आहे कि आखो ॾींहुं हारून रशीद जी जेल में हुआ, हमेशा न बा एॾो टाणो मिलियो कि अप्रोक्सीमेटली 37, 38 38 बच्चा पैदा कयो. इनमें थी अर्धी बायूं, अर्धा छोकरा. इनमें थी फातिमा मासूमा तुम. ऐं अजब थींदा, you will be surprised that from his 17 to 18 daughters, only one got married, or perhaps one or two. The rest apparently were spinsters. Whether they died as spinsters, as far as my knowledge goes, only one got married. Fatima Ma'asuma Qum, Sahibatu Madinati Qum al-Muqaddasa, died at the age of 28, spinster. وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا. She was not able to get the opportunity to get married. Why? It is suggested, subject to analysis, subject to investigation. It could be true, partially true, I don't know. But because of political persecution, the idea is, who would like to get married to a woman whose father is supposedly an opponent of Harun al-Rashid? Who would like to? But yet, the earth in which she is buried has blossomed into a city of knowledge. And no, there is a very startlingly interesting verse in the Quran, Surah Al-Imran, verse 39. This one's a Majid Jigala, time to Manarja. فَدَعَا هُنَالِكَ دَعَا زَكَرِيَّا رَبَّهُ. Zakaria dua kayo. Zakaria prayed to Allah. قَالَ رَبِّي هَبْ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ ذُرِّيَّةً طَيِّبَةً. Grant me pure progeny. إِنَّكَ سَمِيعُ الدُّعَاء. You are the one who listens to du'as, so grant me what? Pure progeny. Now look, listen, startling. فَنَادَتْهُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. So the angels responded to him. وَهُوَ قَائِمٌ يُصَلِّي فِي الْمِحْرَابِ. And he was standing in the mihrab. Who? Zakaria. And this is what they say. Now I will ask you a few questions. Just have to nod your head and shake them. أَنَّ اللَّهَ يُبَشِّرُكَ بِيَحْيَى. Oh Zakaria, Allah gives you good news of Yahya. Look, مُصَدِّقًا بِكَلِمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. That Yahya, that son of yours, he will attest to the truth of Isa ibn Maryam. Positive or negative? Positive or negative? Positive, isn't it? Positive. Right. مُصَدِّقًا بِكَلِمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَالسَّيِّدًا. This Yahya will be a Sayyid, will be a leader of men. وَالنَّبِيًّا. He will be a prophet. مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. From the virtuous. खुदा वखान करे तो के लो से तो वखान करे तो के लो से तो वखान करे तो बाकी आया हरी चीज आए. And he will be hasura. Keep on word आए. या ज़करिया أن الله يبشرك بيحيى مصدقا بكلمة من الله وسيدا وحسورا ونبيا من الصالحين. حسورة لك حسورة لك حسورة لك. نعرف. He said the Tawatawite, one who totally abstains from women because he forsakes all worldly desires and leads a life of asceticism and self-denial. Hasura, it's an intensive form. Ghafoor, એટલે જે બહુ વધારે મગફરત કરે. કસૂર જે બહુ વધારે આળસુ રહે. ફખૂર જે બહુ વધારે ફખર કરે. હસૂર જે બહુ બાઈ જે બાજુ में भी है ना. हाँ. Now the scholarly literature gives a couple of conjectural explanations. One of them is that Yahya and Isa alayhi salam had so much on their plate in terms of the divine mission that they were given that it was not possible for them to, or it was inadvisable for them to get married. Okay, we can always tell them, na, but fine chokri goti dinda, so I was paying you, but satha tabligh kayo. Ilm hasil kayo, I can't tell you, ilm hasil kayo, to I go on a job. Fine chokri goti dinda, so jinke ilm ko pasand hai, jinke tabligh ko pasand hai, karna chalo, but yahan ke position ko insha, wo baat suna pata hai. So one conjectural reason given by the scholarly literature is that it was not possible for them to get married, for Yahya to get married, and so he was very chaste. وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا حَتَّى يُغْنِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. And perhaps this is the same reason why Amina bintul Huda, बुझो था ना, सैयद मोहम्मद बाक़िर सदर मुजतहिद 1980 में जब सद्दाम हुसैन मारे तो भाई बहन के साथ ही मारे. आगे अजब थी दो कि आमिना बिन्तुल हुदा नफ्सुन शरीफा बनेगा. She was 42 years old when she was executed, and she was a spinster. She was a social activist, an educational activist, this activist and that activist. She was in charge of schools in Najaf and but living within the scholarly fraternity, she was unable to find a compatible person. Perhaps because of the same reason due to which Yahya remained unmarried. Anyway, so what this tells us that Chalo panno. So what this tells us that nikah is mustahab by default. Mustahab, mu'akkad, like i'tikaf, like salatul layl, mustahab, mu'akkad. But sometimes it can become wajib. As for a person who is unable to refrain from physical intimacy with the opposite gender, wajib. It can become haram. We have an established Romeo. He has 4 wives, falls in love with yet another woman. Now once you have a fifth wife, you can't get married. It can become makruh, such as for example, وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا. That person who is unable to afford the mahr and unable to pay for the maintenance of a woman, it may become makruh because the life of an innocent soul is at stake. Or a person, as the scholarly literature says, somebody whose soul does not incline to marital relations. An asexual person, perhaps. Anyway, so in light of that, marriage is mustahab, but it can become wajib, it can become makruh, it can become haram, and in that reason, for that matter, if it is haram and makruh, وَلْيَسْتَعْفِفِ الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ نِكَاحًا. And the verse of 39 of Surah Al Imran of Yahya bin Hasura will apply. So this means that, last few things, this means that if we have, we have this famous report, النِّكَاحُ مِنْ سُنَّتِي فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَمَنْ رَغِبَ فِي سُنَّتِنَا فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. निकाह कहनो मुझे सुन्नत आए, અને અગર કોઈ મારું ખિસકી લે મુझे સુન્નત થી તો મુઠી નાય, એટલે જેના પહેણે છે રસૂલ जी उम्मत थी नाय तो को चंदा रसूल आमिना बिन सदर जे बारे में को चंदा रसूल फातिमा मासूमा कुम जे बारे में याहया तो पहला अची विया हल्या विया को चंदा रसूल उम्मत मुहम्मदी में नबा शरारुकुम उज़ाबुकुम, बहुत पेनफुल आए. The worst of you are the single ones. फातिमा मासूमा कुम पे दनारो जे जमीन में ई मदफून है, जमीन ताहिर थे, बाजू में एक बड़ी यूनिवर्सिटी टाउन उभी थे वे शिरार ऐन ना. तो लिहाजा बकी समझे मन कान लहू मा यतज़व्वजु बिही फलम यतज़व्वज फलैस मिन्ना. ऐ समझी गया, अन निकाह मिन सुन्नती फमन रग़िब अन सुन्नती फलैस मिन्नी. हने ही रिवायत के जोड़ो, मन कान लहू मा यतज़व्वजु बिही फलम यतज़व्वज फलैस मिन्ना. जे वटे ताकत है, इस्तिताअत है कि पेणी सके छताई न पेणियो, जिनमें ताकत न आहे या तो ॿिया प्रॉब्लम्स आहिनि, तो हाणे तो ई फलैस ना. हाणे आम थी आहे वीचार कई जा मुझो कम न कि आम थी मुझे आइडिया स्कोप आहे कोई जी ॿिए जी आइडिया स्कोप आहे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल हेॾा मन छेली आहे त ई रसूल ख़ुदा चयो हुयो कि 4 माण्हू आहिनि, आख़िर हक़ माण्हू जो एग्जाम्पल ॾिनोसीं. 4 माण्हू आहिनि जिन ते ख़ुदा जी लानत थिए. 4 people are those upon whom there is God's curse. min fawq al-arsh وأمنت عليه ملائكة. ملائكة पण आमीन चवनि था जॾहिं अहिड़े माण्हूअ ते लानत अचे थी. الذي يحصر حصور same root letters. الذي يحصر نفسه فلا يتزوج ولا يتسرى لئلا يولد له. वो माण्हू जेके न आहे पेणनो, तुंहिंखे बच्चा थींदा जो पेणी थोसे, तुंहिंखे बच्चे जो भार न आहे खणनो, तो मरे आहे, मरे सहूलतूं आहिनि न आहे खणनो. हिन मथे लानत आहे. सम्झा? मन يستطيع أن يتزوج فلم يتزوج. The exceptions आहिनि बस. Brothers and sisters in faith, आम इंग्लिश कच्छी में हली वैसे हैं, मूंखे लॻे थो कि आई बड़े सम्झी सघिया हूंदा. All these teachings have come down to us because of the struggles and efforts of the Prophet and the Imams. And they suffered for that. And their companions, their righteous companions, they suffered. They suffered. Musa ibn Ja'far suffered. Ali ibn Musa suffered. Hussein ibn Ali suffered. Amir al-Mu'min. No, their companions suffered. And that is why Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is reported to have said, أنا قتيل العبرات. Or أنا قتيل العبرات. I am a person whose martyrdom, whose painful murder is one that will evoke tears. لا يذكرني مؤمن إلا استعبر. There is no true believer save that when he will hear about the travails through which I went in order to preserve the teachings of the faith and transmit them, and for which I suffered, there is no mu'min who will but on hearing about it, weep. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Let us recite Surah Al-Fatiha, all the marhumin, preceded by invocations of blessings on the Messenger and his progeny.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.